What's up, everybody? Got a very interesting and fun tier list here for you today. We're going to break this down into 3 tiers that we're going to go over in just a second, but this is going to be current UFC fighters that would do the best or do all right or should stay clear and far away from BKFC, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. And shout out to Derek Graham. He was on my live stream, gave me the idea for this video. I haven't seen anything else like this on YouTube, so if there is, well, they copied me, man. So we're putting out the original here, but this is fun, guys, right? So obviously this is going to be very opinion-based, but I'm someone that's been really diving into BKFC. I've attended a live event. Like, I have really grown passionate about this sport. And obviously the UFC is all of our favorites at this point, right? I mean, the UFC is who we all love and know, but BKFC is on the rise. And there are a lot of fighters that have went from the UFC over to BKFC and had some success and done some good things. So we're going to be taking current active UFC fighters and breaking them down into these categories. Like I said, here we go. S tier, they would do very well. They would be a big name in BKFC. They would have some great performances. The middle tier, we're going to have, they could do all right, you know what I mean? They could go in there, they could do some good things, but yet to be desired. Because in BKFC, it's quite a bit different, right? It's bare knuckle. How are they going to react when they get hit with bare knuckles? It's very different. Or when they throw a punch and it lands bare knuckle, it's just a different kind of ball game. And then we got keep dreaming, right? I mean, these are... You're going to see some people that I have for this category here that when you hear that, you're going to be like, yeah, I would never imagine them in a boxing match anywhere or anything BKFC related. These guys should not be signing any contract to step into BKFC. But let's waste no more time and hop right into this. Starting with, I know I said current guys, but he technically retired like 2 days ago. So I think we give him a little bit of a pass here. And maybe it's possible. I think Matt Brown, the immortal Matt Brown, would be a perfect candidate and would do a really good job inside of BKFC because what I want to explain to you all, right? Matt Brown is one of those guys who's a little bit older. He kind of has that old school fighting style where he's just gritty. He's durable. He likes to push forward. He has good power because in BKFC, you can be the most technical fighter and you can do all these pretty different things. And if you watch BKFC, you'll see guys that were actual boxers, professional boxers, whatever they are. They go in there against some of these former MMA guys. They go in there against just a street fighter type of guy, and they lose because of the way the ring is based. It's more of a circle. It's hard to cut people off, and it's just a dirty, gritty, grimy type of game, which is what makes it so interesting. And I think if you're going to nominate somebody that could go in there and implement a game plan like that, I think Matt Brown would do a tremendous job inside BKFC. All right, moving on. We have El Kukui, Tony Ferguson. Keep on dreaming. Keep on dreaming, buddy. Listen, I know a lot of people like El Kukui. He's a fan favorite, right? I feel like we all have a soft spot for Tony Ferguson, you know, and he's kind of had, obviously, a very sad downfall, and I know people are like, oh, just get away from the UFC. Go do something else. Go to BKFC. Don't tell Tony Ferguson to go to BKFC. This man is getting lit up inside the UFC right now, and I know he's facing still good competition despite what anybody says. He's still in there with some of the best guys in the world. BKFC is a lot more gruesome. You're going to cut. It's just, Tony is far past his prime. This man should not be competing in combat sports right now, in my opinion. I think he's taken a lot of unnecessary damage, you know, throughout his past couple fights. He just hasn't been the same guy. He's not the Tony Ferguson that we all remember. Prime Tony Ferguson, dude, he would have been perfect for BKFC, in my opinion. I think that would have been fun to watch. He might even throw some elbows in there and get DQ'd or something. But Tony Ferguson, man, don't be encouraging this man to go over to BKFC if he leaves the UFC or they cut him. Don't encourage him to do that. It won't end very well. All right. The notorious Conor McGregor. So he's a man that obviously has now became a part owner, or I shouldn't say obviously, maybe you didn't know that, and he is a part owner of the BKFC. I think it's possible that at some point if Nathan Diaz and Conor McGregor don't fight in the UFC, maybe we see this happen in BKFC since he's a part owner. I think Conor McGregor would do a great job in BKFC, right? I know that he has a little bit more of that karate, taekwondo-esque style where he relies on, you know, distance management, movement. He does have some good acrobatic kicks he likes to throw. But we've seen another guy that we're going to bring up here in this video who has competed inside BKFC. And you can still do very well when you have that kind of movement. Conor McGregor has a very good left hand. You got to be a little nutso, a little crazy to step in the squared circle in terms of, you know, BKFC BKFC. And if we're going to look for a crazy, wild individual that I feel like could go in there, I think it would be that man, Conor McGregor. He just seems like he's a guy I could see doing it, right? I think Conor McGregor fighting for his own company, his own promotion, sounds to me like something he would do, and I'm pretty sure he would do very well in there, in my opinion. Okay, Colby Covington. I put him in here because this guy's just an interesting character. He's a troll. He's now actually a duck as well, right? He's a mallard. He's, whatever other kinds of ducks we got out there. That's Colby Covington. Keep on dreaming. If I ever see Colby Covington in the BKFC circle or whatever, I mean, one, I'm tuning in because I want to see, how badly that would end for him. But, this is a guy that, he's getting chipped teeth. I know maybe, he's getting sucker punched and things out there, but now it's bare knuckle, right? I mean, he got a taste of what that's like. I don't think we're going to see Colby Covington, inside the square circle, and Colby Covington's a good wrestler. He's got a good pace, but his striking is just not up to par. And I should mention, I'm not going to go through the whole roster of the UFC and be like, keep on dreaming. These guys aren't going to be a BKFC. Colby Covington is not a person that should be in BKFC. And, I was joking about the whole, him getting punched thing with the bare knuckle. And obviously it's not cool to jump people, but it would make it a joke out of the situation. But Colby Covington, no, keep on dreaming. Better not see him in the BKFC circle. Okay. Now we got Juliana Pena, right? Yeah, I included, WMMA in here because, there's some women out there, man, in BKFC that, they throw down. And I think we got a couple women inside the UFC that could do a tremendous job as well. And my first nomination would be Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena, I know, is kind of a little bit known for, she has some good grappling and she's kind of a gritty type of fighter, but she is a warrior. She is tough. She's durable. She just waves on the action. Like Juliana Pena is somebody that does not shy away from a dogfight. I think she would be a perfect candidate for BKFC in terms of, for over there on the women's side of things. I think she would do a great job. I think she would be fun. I think she would be entertaining. She's good on the microphone. I think she would provide a spark to the women's side of BKFC. While we're at it, more WMMA. We'll do the next two here. I got Valentina Shevchenko. Now, I'm going to put her under the could do I category, all right? Because as much as I like Valentina Shevchenko, she's more of kind of a Muay Thai-esque striker, right? Where she relies on, some other tools to help her get the job done where it's not predominantly with the hands. So that's kind of why I have a little bit of a hesitation here. I have no doubt about, the grit, the determination, all those different factors. I think Valentina has the mindset. I think she has all those things. But in terms of the skill set, I think she lacks a little bit with the hands. She does have good hands, but for BKFC, I could just see there being some things here when you're so relying on, heavy on kicks and things like that. So I'm going to put her under the could do I category. And then last but not least for WMMA, I'm going Irene Aldana. I think I'm putting her in the S tier. I think Irene Aldana, one, in my opinion, she's the best boxer in women's MMA inside the UFC. She has a good high guard. She likes to move forward. Sometimes she's a little slow to get going and kind of tries to just play the stick and move type of game to where maybe that could be an issue for her here. But in BKFC with the bare knuckles, obviously there's some issues with that, right? Because if you're just spamming shots, you're going to break your hands and different things. So you have to be a little bit more particular in how you're approaching the fight and how you're picking at it. So I think that she would pick her shots wisely, and I think Irene Aldana would do a great job inside the women's side of things for BKFC. All right. We have, representing the heavyweight division, one of our nominations here that I would have could do I Tai Tuivasa. And Tai Tuivasa is on a little bit of a down skid right now inside the UFC. I think that he could be a good fit in BKFC. I think that maybe there's a possibility if his UFC contract runs out that we see him go over there. He's a guy that's known for kind of being more of a brawler. He does have power in his hands. He kind of relies on his hands basically to get all of his work done. But just from what we've seen lately in his career in terms of the way things have kind of looked, I'm a little hesitant, but I think that there could be some upside here for Tai Tuivasa inside BKFC, and I think that could be a really good place for him if once his UFC time kind of runs out, and I could see him doing well, but like I said, a little hesitant because of what we have seen from him recently. All right. Next nomination, I'm going to pull another heavyweight here that I'm going to put in the S category, and that is Sergey Pavlovich. Now, if I had to pick basically any heavyweight, he might be my first pick, right? I'm going between him and somebody else at heavyweight for who would be my first picks, but Sergey Pavlovich, when you look at this guy, it's just business. One, he's scary. He's a big dude. The way he gets his fight, the way he wins fights inside the UFC is with the boxing, with the hands. He has nasty uppercuts. I can see him sneaking shots around the guard on a lot of different heavyweights inside the BKFC, which BKFC has some solid heavyweights, right? We got Ben Rothwell in there, but it's not a stacked division in terms of BKFC by any means. And I think Sergey Pavlovich would go in there and he would be going up against Mick Terrell, who just beat Lorenzo Hunt, Hunt was trying to claim a third belt. I could see Sergey Pavlovich going in there and getting rid of Mick Terrell. No disrespect, I like Mick Terrell a lot. I just think Sergey Pavlovich has the mindset, the tenacity, the ferociousness. He just looks like a bare knuckle kind of guy to me. I got Sergey Pavlovich. All right, moving on. I got MVP, and I'm going to put him under could do all right. And, it's kind of a 50-50 here between S tier and could do all right. We saw him in there against Platinum Mike Perry inside BKFC. He's already done it, so we had to include him on this list. He's not exactly someone I would have thought we would see in BKFC because he's very kind of linear in that karate-like stance. I wasn't so sure that we were going to see a style like his inside BKFC, but he actually did all right. He did an okay job. But that was the point that I was trying to make at the beginning of the video, was this fight was a perfect example. You could be that fast, flashy kind of striker, and you go in there against a dirty, gritty, grimy. When I say dirty, I mean a guy that's not afraid to close you down. It doesn't matter what the fight looks like. Mike Perry is the perfect example of that. This man will take a shot to give two. And that's just the way he is. And we saw MVP do a pretty good job inside BKFC, right? He did an okay job. And that's why I said could do all right. I don't think we're ever going to see him do it again. And I don't think he is a top tier nomination for who would do the best inside BKFC. But like I said, he could do all right. And we saw what he did in there. And that's what I would classify as all right. All right, here we go. Let's go back to keep on dreaming. I've been saying this guy's the best boxer in the UFC, baby. And that is Jailton Almeida. I'm obviously kidding. If you saw my best boxers tier list, I threw a joke in there to keep it fun. Jailton Almeida, first of all, I don't want to make it seem like I'm making it personal with Jailton Almeida. The guy is a talented athlete. He seems like a great guy. Seems like a really nice guy. Has one of the most boring fighting styles I've ever seen inside the UFC. And there's no way we would ever see him in BKFC. His fighting style just does not make sense. It does not align with what BKFC is doing. He's got coaches in his corner saying, keep doing what you're doing. And what he did in the round before was not land a single strike, hold somebody down like it's a wrestling match, not look for any submissions, literally lay on top of people, ask them questions, be like, hey, Derek Lewis, what are you doing after the fight? You want to have some Popeyes together? That's what Jailton Almeida's fighting style is. Nah, don't want to see that in BKFC. That's why we got him under Keep Dreaming. All right, let's go back to the S tier and another nomination, Paulo Costa, the Eraser. Now, Paulo Costa, I know he's not the most technical guy, but one thing about Costa, he's very durable, he's aggressive, he's entertaining, and he's a little wild in terms of the striking. And like I said, that sometimes is exactly what you need to be successful at BKFC. I think Paulo Costa would be a very, very fun fighter inside BKFC. One, his personality, his fighting style is fast-paced. It's aggressive. I could see him having some good success. He likes to dig to the body, throws a really good body shot. He throws those big looping hooks that could sneak around the guard. I think Paulo Costa would do very well at BKFC, and I think he would be very entertaining. All right, moving on to the could do I category. I got Tom Aspinall here, the current UFC interim heavyweight champion. Now, the reason I'm hesitant to put him in the S category is I do think Tom Aspinall has good boxing, but his style's kind of revolved around. He does have some good leg kicks. He does have good grappling that he likes to lean on and use. So I think Tom could do BKFC, but in terms of mentality and kind of the grittiness, I think Sergey Pavlovich kind of outweighs him in terms of just going in there bare knuckle. That seems more like a Pavlovich type of thing to me, where Aspinall, not to say that he couldn't do that, but I think that Aspinall is like a better athlete type of guy, where in BKFC, it's not necessarily the best athletes that do the best, but the gritty, just wild type of dudes that seem to have the most success. So that's kind of what I'm going off of there. And then let's go back to, I got another S tier nomination, and that would be Piotr No Mercy Yan. Petr Yan, master of sport in boxing. He's competed in boxing before. He's got a good, tight, high guard, likes to push the pace, likes to move forward, very aggressive, hence the name No Mercy. The guy shows no mercy. He's ferocious. I think his attitude just spells BKFC. I think if you're going to, mention a guy that's like, okay, who's aggressive, who's just nasty in there and just does whatever it takes, like Petr Yan's a guy that comes to mind. I think Petr Yan would be a really good nomination in terms of who would do well in BKFC. All right. Could do all right. I got Derek Lewis. All right. And I thought Derek Lewis maybe for the S tier, and I could see how you could put him there, but I'm going could do all right because the thing with Derek Lewis, he does have that brawler kind of style, right? Like a Tai Tuivasa. He does have crazy power. But one of the things with Derek Lewis is he's a little bit too reliant on the overhand right, kind of swinging one shot over and over again, where with the heavyweights, that's all kind of takes is one shot, right? He does have a nasty uppercut. He does have some of those other things. But with Derek Lewis, it kind of just depends on what night it is, right? Sometimes he's feeling it. Sometimes he's not. I don't know. Maybe his balls get a little hot. Maybe he gets ants in his pants and he gets a little aggressive and kind of just sprints after somebody and he's really feeling it. And then we see we're like, okay, yeah, Derek Lewis makes sense. And then there's other nights where it's like, Derek Lewis just didn't look like he really showed up. So I'd put him under could do all right, but I definitely think that Derek Lewis, out of all the heavyweights, him and Sergey Pavlovich would be my top two nominations for BKFC heavyweights. Okay, moving on. Could do all right. I got Magomed Ankalaev. Now, I know that people are going to say, whoa, why would you say that? Magomed Ankalaev and, his grappling. And Magomed Ankalaev has some pretty good boxing. He does have some pretty good technical boxing. I forgot to include him on my best boxers in the UFC list. I think Magomed Ankalaev, man, he seems a little dirty in there, a little nasty. He kind of, comes off as like, first of all, he looks like the Wicked Witch from the West with that nose and everything. He looks like a mountain man. And he's got a little bit of a dark side to him, I feel. I feel like Magomed's not this big old smiley guy that everyone, seems to think. And I could see him getting down and dirty in the BKFC circle, man. I think Magomed Ankalaev could do all right. Like I said, he does lean on that grappling in his back pocket. He does like to use kicks. But overall, he's predominantly getting it done with the hands. He has good power. He seems ferocious to me. I think Magomed Ankalaev could do all right. That's why I got him here in the mid category. All right, the light heavyweight champion, Alex Pereira. I'm going could do all right. As much as I like Alex Pereira, he's one of my favorite fighters of all time. So this is, I could have easily been biased and said, S category. Alex Pereira's left hook is what saves him here, right? He's got a good jab that he likes to throw to the body to set up that left hook. That left hook he could do in any sort of combat sport that allows you to throw a punch, and he could be good at just about all of them because that left hook is the great equalizer. However, he is a little bit too reliant on the left hook for me, and the way his style is a little bit odd to me for BKFC. He's kind of upright and more of a Thai stance to where I think there's a possibility he could do very well. I think if he adapted his stance a little bit and kind of opened up a little bit more with some of the shots, I think Alex Pereira could do very well there. That's why I got could do all right. In terms of if it was just, him banking on a left hook, that's S tier worthy. But in terms of the overall skill set here, instead of just we're looking at one punch with the left hook there, I think he could do all right. That's what I'm going to say for Alex Pereira. All right. Moving on. We have S tier, Sean Strickland. If you were going to ask me a top 5 guy I think we could end up seeing in BKFC, because one, you got to be a little psycho, you got to be a little nuts, and just a guy that has a personality for something like this, Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has a very good jab. He likes to walk forward. He stays relatively defensively safe, uses that Philly shell. He has an interesting way of blocking that I weirdly think could work pretty well for BKFC, for bare knuckles. So I think that Sean Strickland, honestly, I think that he could do very well at BKFC. I think his jab would really cause some people problems. I think he would just, I think he would tear people up with that jab. He's a little basic in his approach. However, the way he pushes forward and advances, I think Sean Strickland would be quite entertaining inside BKFC. All right, keep dreaming. I got Israel Adesanya. Now, while I like Izzy as a striker, I think Izzy is one of the best strikers in the UFC. I think he's very, very fun to watch. His particular fighting style, to me, just doesn't seem... It's almost... If MVP did not compete in BKFC already to where we got a sample, I would have him under Keep Dreaming. But I got Izzy under Keep Dreaming because Izzy's more of a kicker, right? That's really what he relies on. He does have some decent punches, but a lot of that has to do with the feints he's setting up and some of these other things, just to where his style is that pick and poke kind of style that just doesn't have, that isn't the best guys in BKFC that have that point, pick and poke kind of style, to where, although I think there's a possibility Izzy could maybe do well if he made some adjustments to his style, but overall, I just think in terms of the way he likes to fight, I don't see BKFC being a great suit for Izzy, personally. All right, Jeff Neal. I'm going S tier. I got Jeff Neal in the S tier. I think Jeff Neal, he's just one of those guys, man. He relies heavily on his boxing. He's got good high guard defense, the way he floats around. I think Jeff Neal is a guy that maybe one day we see in BKFC, right? He's kind of on a little bit of a skid here in the UFC. Granted, he's fighting some of the best guys in the world, obviously, right? So we have to take that into consideration. But the way he fights, he's got a good left hand. He's got some good hooks. He moves well, mixes things up. And Jeff Neal can play that technical kind of game while also moving forward, not afraid to get in the phone booth and kind of, cause a little bit of that dirty, grimy type of fight. I like Jeff Neal's attitude. I think that he's a guy that could excel in BKFC. So that's why I'm riding with Jeff Neal here. All right. Let's go S tier, or we'll go could do all right. All right, I got Josh Emmett. Now, you might say, why Josh Emmett? If you look at some of the UFC guys that have transitioned over to BKFC who have done pretty well and put on some good performances, a couple names come to mind. One, Eddie Alvarez. Two, Chad Mendes. And what did they have in common? Well, they were wrestlers who developed some decent hands with some really good power. Josh Emmett, I think he fits that category, a wrestler with a crazy overhand right. I think Josh Emmett, he's durable. He likes to push forward. He wings that right hand. He's got some wild hooks that he likes to throw. And from what we've seen from these wrestlers that learn how to throw some hands, they tend to do very well in BKFC. That low center of gravity, pushing forward, that dirty, grimy type of fight. I could see Josh Emmett doing actually pretty well inside BKFC. But again, he does get touched up a little bit as a little one-dimensional at times. So that's why I have him under, could do all right. Let's go Chris Curtis here. I think Chris Curtis would, I'm putting him in the S tier. I think Chris Curtis could do a great job inside BKFC. One, he fights kind of similar to Sean Strickland. Different, but yet similar. He likes to dig to the body, likes to move forward, has pretty decent head movement, likes to roll under some shots. He's not hesitant, kind of like Strickland in terms of opening up. Chris Curtis is a little bit more offensive to where, he does have a boxing base. He's aggressive. He likes to push forward. And he can really fight you in the phone booth. He can kind of fight you at range a little bit. But really, ideally, Chris Curtis is looking to close you down, get in that tight, close quarter boxing range. I can see Chris Curtis putting on and doing pretty well in BKFC. That's why I got him in the S tier. Okay, moving on. I got Jack Della Maddalena. I got JDM in the could do all right tier because Jack Della Maddalena, I think he is one of the best boxers inside the UFC. But as I mentioned early on in the video, that doesn't mean that you're going to be sensational inside of BKFC because it's a little bit different. And we have a little bit of a smaller sample size when it comes to Jack Della at this point in time in his career. But I think that actual boxing would suit him a little bit better to where it's a little more technical. It's a little bit more clean. That's kind of how JDM likes things. But the way he digs to the body, the way he switches stances, the way he mixes things up, I could see JDM doing all right possibly. But I don't know that we see him inside BKFC. But if he did, I could see him doing all right. All right. Moving on to back to the S tier, I got Dustin the Diamond Poirier. There's no mystery that when we look at DP, excuse me, this is a man that just is violent. Dustin Poirier, the way he fights, his entire style, his personality just speaks, eats, sleeps, and breathes BKFC, in my opinion. I know Poirier is kind of hinted at, maybe BKFC wouldn't be something he would explore. He likes more of the boxing. But in terms of this video, I'm putting I'm putting DP, the Diamond Dustin Poirier, in the S category. He's gritty. He's grimy. His blocking, the way he likes to block, I could see being a problem. He has that modified crawfish, Philly shell, stonewall guard, whatever you want to call it. I could see people messing up their wrists and hands, hitting his elbows. His style of blocking, I think, is perfect for BKFC. He would be a top he would be maybe my top option in terms of transitioning over to BKFC and having the most success. I like Dustin Poirier in BKFC. That's why I got him in the S tier. Okay. Could do all right. I got Bobby King Green, right? Bobby Green's one of those guys that I think he has some of the best hands in all of MMA. I think that Bobby Green, his style's that very 50-50 kill or be killed type of style where he likes to kind of move forward and throw hands, but he doesn't have a ton of pop on his shots. And in BKFC, the more punches that you throw, you're going to continue to, your hands can only take so much when you're bare knuckle. And I just worry about that with Bobby Green. While he does have some good power in his style with his hands low and just that concerns me in BKFC because with bare knuckle, man, one shot, you're getting split open, you're getting sat down. So I'm kind of nervous for Bobby in that aspect, but I do like his hand speed. I do like the way that he is able to box. I think Bobby Green could do all right in there. Like I said, his defense does concern me a little bit. All right. Let's move on here to... Justin Gaethje. I'm going to go S tier. I think Justin Gaethje is, when we're talking about a guy that just kind of spells BKFC, violence, gritty, determination, like that kind of thing, Justin Gaethje is one of the guys that comes to mind. A him, Poirier type of thing. I think Justin would do well in BKFC. He is like that Chad Mendes, Eddie Alvarez type of guy, former wrestler, that forward pressure style that's developed a heavy hand type of game. We know how exciting Gaethje is. I think he would be wildly entertaining in BKFC. That's why I got Justin Gaethje in the S tier. Okay, keep on dreaming. I got Sugar Sean O'Malley. While I like Sean O'Malley and I think that Sugar Sean could do a very, very good job in actual boxing, BKFC would kind of be a little bit of a problem for me, right? Because while I mentioned Israel Adesanya, which, by the way, Izzy and Sean O'Malley are top 5 overall strikers in the UFC. They're two of my favorites to watch. Their styles don't speak BKFC to me. You got to be a guy that's willing to push forward. You have to be aggressive. Where him and Izzy are very tactical. They really like to mix things up. It's not to say that O'Malley and Izzy don't have good hands, because they do. But in terms of BKFC, the style, I could just see O'Malley kind of getting taken advantage of in terms of him trying to sit on the outside, play the points game, kind of like the MVP type of style. It just doesn't seem to work that well in terms of BKFC. And you might say, well, hey, why'd you put McGregor there? That's because Conor's style over the past few years has really kind of adapted to more of a boxing base, push forward, get in the phone booth type of style that would cater more towards BKFC. But I just don't think BKFC would be a good suitor for Sugar Sean. Let's go with the could do I tier. I got Ilia Topuria. Now, why I mention I think Ilia Topuria has the best traditional boxing base in all of MMA, that's kind of one of the reasons that I think he could do all right, because I think he would do better in an actual boxing match, because in BKFC, the way that he likes to fight, the way that he kind of fights like an actual boxer, we've seen kind of backfire on guys whenever they go into BKFC. It's not to say that he couldn't go in there and dominate people, but from the style of fighters that we have seen be successful, they're guys that have good hands, but just have a certain kind of feel to them, to where I feel like Topuria kind of has that. But I'm just unsure there, because I think he's more of a technical boxer type of dude. And so I got him under the could do all right category. Moving on to could do all right. A guy that's kind of popped onto the radar, Diego Lopez. I think Diego Lopez is a guy who he's bursting onto the scene, man. We're seeing that he is aggressive. He comes at you the minute the bell sounds. Like, he is aggressive, gets in your face. He's got some dirty boxing inside in terms of, kind of grabbing the back of your neck, almost like a Justin Gaethje, firing off uppercuts inside in the clinch. I think he's aggressive. He's a fast starter. He's kind of known for his submissions and his grappling as well, but he's got some really good tight inside boxing that I could see him overwhelming people, kind of crunching them down into a phone booth and causing some real problems. I think Diego Lopez could do all right in BKFC. All right, let's go back to, could do all right. I got Calvin Kattar, right? Calvin Kattar's known for having some good long straight punches, but he kind of has too clean of a striking style, in my opinion, to where I'm just not sure how well that would do at BKFC. But what I like about Calvin Kattar, his durability, his toughness, and his relentlessness and his mindset, check the boxes for BKFC. So I think that he's someone that would be very interesting in BKFC. That's kind of why I have him here. I got Michael Chandler. You know, I'm going to put Michael Chandler in the S tier. He kind of falls under that Eddie Alvarez, Chad Mendes type of category. The only thing is he swings a little wild, gets a little reckless to where that might be a little bit of an issue, but also might play to the advantage of Michael Chandler. So I think he would be wildly entertaining at BKFC. I think all of his fights would end in him either getting finished or his opponent getting finished. I think Michael Chandler, no matter where he goes, he's entertaining to watch fight. So it's hard to say that he couldn't be in the S tier for this. Okay, moving on, S tier, Maxie baby. Max Blessed Holloway. We know about Max Holloway, one of the best boxers in the UFC. He's gritty. We know that the volume that he's able to put out. We've seen him sitting on a lot more shots recently. The power, we saw it against Gaethje. We saw it against the Korean Zombie. His mindset, his mentality, the way he approaches fights, the way he just gets after it. Max Holloway, man, the pointing down at the center in BKFC, that would be wild. I could see him doing it. I think Max Holloway spells violence. He fits in perfectly for BKFC. All right, let's go with could do I got Marlon Chito Vera, right? Marlon Chito Vera is not particularly known for being the best boxer or he's more of just an all-around good MMA fighter. But when we talk about some of the most durable guys and guys that just don't seem to cut, guys that don't seem to take much damage, even despite kind of getting picked apart by Sean O'Malley, like 2 weeks later, this man looked like he had no marks on him from taking a knee up the middle that had his whole head swollen for, it's crazy. So I think Marlon Chito Vera's mindset, his durability, his toughness, and his grit, he spells BKFC violence to me. I like Marlon Chito Vera inside BKFC. I think he could do well. All right, let's go. I'm going to go Jose Aldo here. I think Jose Aldo falls under the S tier, right? We've seen Jose Aldo really kind of adopt a boxing-centric style later in his career. We saw him take on a couple boxing matches. And he's a guy that's got really good hands. He's got really good body shots. We saw the liver shot he was able to land on Jeremy Stevens. We saw the body work he was putting in against Jonathan Martinez. I think he's a dirty, gritty type of fighter to where I think Jose Aldo could do very well in BKFC, and maybe it's possible we see him there. He doesn't have a lot of, he basically fought out his deal for the UFC. I know he said he kind of wants to be back, but I think it's possible we could see Aldo in BKFC, and his fighting style, violent to me. I think that he could do very well in BKFC. All right, keep on dreaming. I got Song Yadong. While I think that Song is an aggressive kind of fighter, and I do think that he has an entertaining style, I just think that the way he fights is a little chaotic in terms of the boxing. He does have good power in his hands. And you know what? Never mind. I got Song Yadong going in the could do I category because I just convinced myself. When we look at Chad Mendes, Eddie Alvarez, those types of guys that have good wrestling, have good power in their hands, I could see Song doing a good job inside BKFC. He's got good power. He's got a good overhand. He mixes up some of the shots. I just get kind of worried when he tries to get a little too clean and technical because that can backfire in BKFC. But I'm going to stick to my guns there. I think Song Yadong could do all right. S tier, Rob Font. I think Rob Font, now you might say, well, him and Calvin Kattar are basically the same fighter. Why do you have him in the S tier? We've seen Rob Font in some crazy fights, man. We've seen him in some wild fights where this man just never backs down, a lot like Calvin Kattar. He likes to push forward. He's got a beautiful jab. He's got a good high guard. The way he is able to just mix in those uppercuts on the inside is a little bit different than what Calvin Kattar does. We saw him do this against Adrian Yanez. I think that Rob Font would do a tremendous job in BKFC given his personality, the grit, his perseverance. I think he's a perfect fit for BKFC, but that's my list, guys. I know that, I didn't want to include everybody. Otherwise, we could sit here all day and continue to go for this. This video was long enough, but I want to hear from you all down in the comments, your thoughts on my list, who you would add in some of these categories. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, help your boy out. I appreciate you all. See you next time.